think this morning, we all are women in here, minus my husband, who I'm probably more nervous to be in front of him than everybody else because he's a guy. And as I was sharing this stuff, he's just kind of, I'm like, you don't get it, okay? You don't get it. I think I get it how he shares his sermons with me, and I'm like, yeah. He's like, are you serious? This is awesome. I'm like, don't ruin it for me. I'll hear it on Sunday. Okay, I want you to remember back to a time, specifically. A date, a time, sometime here recently, say the last 3 months. Then another woman said something to you that made you just feel like $1,000,000. Made you feel so good about yourself, about your life, about your calling, about your service and ministry. Think about that time. What did she say? I'm not going to call anybody out, but does anybody want to share a compliment? I'll share one of mine. I got a compliment. This meant the world to me about my smile. I have super big teeth. Okay, I do. And she said, I can tell that Jesus is inside of you through your smile. That was incredible to me. That was incredible. Because something I get self-conscious about, she is pointing out as some glory to God. That's pretty awesome. Does anybody else have anything that you're like, that was said to me? Anybody? No, I'm not going to make you. Are you raising your hand? No. Okay. I didn't just ask that. She really did have her hand kind of up. Okay, I'm not going to point anybody out. Well, I want you to think about that because sometimes it's hard for us to find those moments. How sad is that? It's hard for us to find those moments. Look around. Everybody take a second, just look around at all these women. Why? Why is it hard for us to find those moments? Why is it tougher for us to find that? Because here's my next question. Think about a time that another woman said something to or about you that completely cut you down. We all are nodding. Why can we think of that so quickly? Again, look around. I'm telling you, this is going to step on toes, so please don't hate me. I really asked God, I'm like, God, are you sure? Are you sure this isn't just for me? These people don't know me. I want you to think about, what did this person say to you? For me, from the time I was 12, being a pastor's kid, you pretty much are in ministry and in some sort of leadership immediately. When you can start walking, you hand out bulletins, okay? You start doing something. When you're excited that the baptism's going to get filled up because you think you get to maybe go swimming for a second, okay? That's exciting. Or after communion, you get to go back and drink all the extra juice until we got caught. Us pastors' kids, there were 8 pastors on staff at the church I was at, and we all rallied together. And then we found the sugar cubes. I did not know those existed. We got into a drawer to get the attendance, and we found these sugar cubes. And we found that if you put a sugar cube in the communion cup with juice, it makes some supercharged power drink. Okay? Excellent stuff. Until we got caught. Not so excellent. Yeah? Sorry, guys. Don't do that. Don't do that. In general, we as women have very similar traits. We really do. So I want to ask you, ladies, how many of you would say, and be honest, I'm super real, I want you to be super real. We are going to get absolutely nowhere if we don't open up. We're going to get nowhere, okay? Let me ask, how many of you want to feel loved? How many of you want to feel accepted and validated? How many of you want to feel like you are pretty or attractive? We all want to live the best lives we can. We all want to have happy and healthy relationships. So here's the question I pose. If we all want similar types of things, at what point did we as women decide that it was acceptable to get those things for ourselves by taking them from other women? At what point did we decide that? At what point did we decide that it was acceptable to get those things for ourselves by taking them from other women? Now, this is not a condemnation message, I promise you. This isn't what this is about. But we live in a world now where people are scared to call things out. And the church, the women in the church, we can't be scared to call things out, or we will make zero difference in this world that we are called to be set apart in. My first point is we need to stop comparing ourselves to other women. We have to stop. I'm going to be sharing some kind of raw stuff with you about myself. My whole entire life, everybody has talked to me and said, you are so confident. You just are so, you can just tell you're a leader. You're so confident. It doesn't bother you to get up and speak. It doesn't bother you to get up and sing or get up and play. And I just would be like, are you serious? Are you serious? Because that is not my perception of myself. And that's where we need to start. I see lots of young girls in this room, children, teenagers, and we all remember school. School's a brutal place. But I doubt that any of us really, really recognize and understand how really hard it is now in these schools. We're living in a world where being tolerant and accepting everything is now expected. That's not what we as Christians are called to do. We are called to be set apart. The current culture trends show us that in order to be a meaningful or virtuous woman, you must figure out how to balance a 40-hour day into a 24-hour period. For example, you have to clean your home, care for other people, kids, parents, siblings, wear the fanciest clothes, have your hair and nails perfectly completed, be up to date on current events, be a social butterfly, be a member of like a gazillion groups, cook dinner for your family, finish the laundry, do those quick like charcoal face things before going to bed, and now go to sleep for 8 full hours. How many of you actually completed that yesterday? Did anyone complete any of that? Did anyone sleep 8 hours? Okay. Right? That's not happening. But you know, culture tells us that the women who can do those things are more important than the women who can't. Why? Why? And let's be real, I don't know anybody who can do those things every day. I'm excited. Zach and I, we don't have any kids. We have a Yorkie. That's like having 4 children, I'm pretty sure. Zach says that my Yorkie helps to guard the gates of hell. I don't know. He calls him Legion sometimes. Anybody have a Yorkie? Okay. You have a Yorkie? It's bad, isn't it? It's crazy. Yappy dogs. And my dog will not bite you, but this is what he'll do. He will run up to you like it's like a sneak attack. That's what he does. He comes up. He'll jump. He'll put his teeth on your leg and then just run it down. That dog. And he went to the vet, and I was told that he is overweight by 3 ounces. I said, well, what do I do about that? Can that become my problem, please? That would be excellent. I want to talk a little bit about what God says about being a virtuous woman. We all know this passage of Scripture. I'm just going to read a little bit of it. Proverbs 31, 25 and 26. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. It's interesting to me that in the whole passage of Proverbs 31, it does not mention anything about being culturally inclusive and being able to keep up with the Joneses. Doesn't say that at all. In fact, when we do compare our lives to the lives of other women, and I want you to understand this is not just a woman problem. This is not just a woman problem. But we're women in here, so I'm going to reference women. When we compare our lives to the lives of other women, we can lose focus on the purpose and plans God has given us to fulfill. How many of you have heard of Lisa Bevere? Excellent author, excellent speaker. I used to say, I just want to be like Lisa Bevere. I want to be just like her. She's got it together, man. God really humbled me in a moment where I was told, but you're not Lisa Bevere. Oh, I know. That's what I'm saying. I want to be like that. But she wrote a book called Without Rival. Anybody read that? Excellent book. Excellent book. It changed a lot of my perspective. stating that every woman, every man was created and designed to fulfill a certain aspect of his purpose, to further his kingdom and to raise up his glory. But we are so busy thinking about the other people, we get off track in doing the portion of his work that we are called to do. I want you to think about this. When our admiration of someone's life transitions to having a desire for that life or their perceived circumstances, we're in a world of trouble. I want you to understand it's not wrong to admire a person, but it's almost like we as women twist that, and I'll tell you where it comes from. It comes from the enemy. He plays with our mind, and then our minds control the rest of our body. And how many of you would say you have a crazy mind? I do. How many of you have had something happen? I was just sharing, we went out with Pastor Dan and Heather last night, and we were sharing about how when something happens to you, I want you to raise your hand when you start to identify with this person, because I am this person, okay? Something happens. So you think about that something. You may or may not share that something with your husband, who then says, it's not a big deal. So then you come back, okay, and you think about that again. And now we're thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking over and over and over and over. And now it has turned into something that it never ever was. And we've spent so much time thinking about it, we don't even remember what it was about. Why do we do that? I don't know why we do that. But how many of you have done that? Thank you for your honesty. You are one of a kind, designed by God to do a specific work. The women you spend so much time thinking about and working so hard to measure up to have their own plan for their lives designed by God for them. We need to back off of each other. We've got to stop comparing ourselves to each other. We're adding stress, worry, and chaos to our lives by allowing our thoughts and actions to not be pulled into submission to God's will for our lives. It's not our place to compare ourselves to others. The enemy will always know how to attack us here. Always. He knows how to attack us here. He knows that women, whether we want to admit it or not, we can be petty. We can be. We can be petty. How many of you are the type of woman who you have a lot of, like, girlfriends? Okay. How many of you are the kind of woman who none of your friends are girls? That was me. None of my friends were girls. Why? Because it's too much work. It's hard. It is hard. One thing about myself, and this is kind of getting just in the raw stuff. So I told you that Zach and I just started trying. And in doing that, they start to balance out your hormones. When I went and got tested, it found out that my testosterone, which we all have, was too high. Okay? Which is why, I'm guessing, because, you know, I'm a doctor now. This is what I'm thinking. I was never an emotional person. I just wasn't. It wasn't me. When chaos happens, I'm very calm. I don't know why. I don't cry often. I just don't go there very often. Well, now they're trying to fix my hormones, okay? And I don't know what happened, but now I cry. I cry. I don't know what's going on. I feel like I have zero control on anything. I wake up sometimes and I'm like, what? How am I going to get all this done? I'm a planner. I'm really organized. I like everything to go as planned. My husband is really, let's go with the flow. I'm like, let's not do that. Let's plan this out. And I know Zach's loving it because I'm not as angry. I'm not as all the time. So I was taking this medicine that fixes my hormones. There was a commercial on the other day. Zach and I very, very seldom get to watch TV because we're never home. But when we are, we have a DVR, so we don't really watch commercials. Well, we're big Survivor fans. Any Survivor fans? Right on. We love Survivor. We watched it live, and there was a commercial that came on. It was some golf situation. I don't even know what happened. But this old man tried to hit this ball, and he missed. And for whatever reason, that upset me. I started crying. And Zach looks at me. He's like, are you crying? I'm like, yes. He And so I'm like, what is wrong with me? I need to get this together. So I bring this back to people's perception of me was that I was super confident, that I really had it together, natural leader, all these things that should lift me up. But inside I was really torn because that's not how I saw myself. And do you want to know why that's not how I saw myself? Because the attacks and the words and the actions of the women in my life hurt me. I was 12 when it started. And when I recognized it, it hurt me. I was 27 last year when I realized that I held on to that. And I had to let that go somehow. And please understand, I'm still dealing with that. I have not arrived. I'm not perfect. I still mess this up. We need to stop comparing ourselves to each other. We have no idea. We have no idea what we are going through, what each of us are going through. And let's be honest, ladies, even what we do share may or may not be the whole truth. We need to stop criticizing and competing with each other. I was a sports, it may not so much look like it now. I've been out of high school 10 years. A 10-year reunion was like last week. I did not go. But I'm like, oh man, I've been out of school 10 years. So when you play sports, you compete. I'm not talking about that kind of competition. That's organized competition. I'm talking about that I'm going to dress better than you on Sunday so people can see that I am better than you. Or I'm going to drive a better car than you so people can say I have a better job than you. We all know that this exists. We all know that this is in the world. I'm hoping it doesn't exist at this church. Unfortunately, Zach and I, in our travels, we've been to several churches that have been extremely hurt, and they need restoration amongst their women in the body. I'm sure you heard the saying before that, hurt people hurt people. How true is that? Here's my case in point. How many of you are married? How many of you, when you're mad, you go at your husband? How many times was it actually your husband's fault? Some. Okay, some. This is so easy in today's world because we're teaching people that retaliation, regardless of right or wrong, is the only answer. It's not okay. Women in today's world have become really good, really good at becoming what I call frenemies. Have you guys heard of what frenemies are? So a frenemy is a person who is nice to you when they're with you, and then they cut you down when they're not with you. That is a frenemy. And I want you to ask yourself, truly, because like I said, if you don't open up, you will get nothing from today. Nothing from today. God is fully prepared and waiting to replace this ugly in us with him. We got to get it out. What happened to iron sharpens iron? What happened to the Proverbs 31 reference where wisdom and faithful instruction is supposed to be on our tongues? Earlier, I mentioned that we may get what we want by taking it from other women. When we gossip about each other, Satan wins every time. When we negatively discuss each other in any way to anyone, Satan wins. Let me say this. Venting and gossip are the exact same thing if done with a heart of criticism and judgment. There's a difference. In fact, venting should be handled in the form of prayer. That's how we should be venting, not to each other. How many of you guys have time for other people's problems? We ain't got time for that. We do not. We do not have time for that. Not that we don't love each other and we don't want to walk alongside each other, but how many of you would say you're the kind of person who carries the burden for other people? Because for some reason, we all of a sudden think it's our job to play God. Jesus designed the people who annoy us. He's got this. He designed them too. I'm sure every single woman in this place today can think of a person who annoys you. Any woman want to admit that you kind of live in a constant state of being annoyed? Thank you. So do I. I don't know what it is. Right this second, I choose to blame it on the medicine, okay? That's what I choose to do. But let me say this. When you gossip about someone to anyone else, you're proving your weaknesses and flaws in your own character to God and to the person you are sharing it with. Ouch. When we gossip, and ladies, let's be real, gossip is one of the number one issues amongst women in and out of church today. Because we name it in different things. For example, this was a humbling experience for myself. At work, I was talking about an employee. Now, to some degree, I have to do that. Being the director, I have to discuss this. I have to figure out how I'm going to handle a situation. I absolutely hate firing people. Hate it. I've had to do it twice. One I was okay with because they shouldn't be working with people. The second one was hard for me, and I cried. It was ridiculous, okay? I cried. The rest I try to convince them to resign because I feel like you can offer them grace, and then they don't have that on their record. But I recognized I was in a team meeting with my management, and I was talking to them about this person, and I realized, oh my goodness, Lauren, your heart is judging them. This is no longer helpful. This is not any sort of faithful instruction. This is not wisdom. I am gossiping now about this person. I've inserted my opinions about them and their success into the conversation. We need to be careful. We have to encourage and build each other up. That's what we need. Ephesians 4:29, let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. We cut each other off at the knees because we don't make our minds submit to his will. His will is never that we are tearing down his other children. How many of you mothers have allowed your children to verbally tear down your other children and did nothing about it? I'm not talking about the little squabbles that I know my brother and I had, and I know that my parents had no hope for those situations. There was no way to stop that. But the times that we're truly, truly hurting each other and tearing each other down. 2 Corinthians 10:5. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. Perseverating, which I had to tell Zach's like, what does that mean? What does perseverating mean? Thinking on, obsessing on, fixating on. We spend so much time perseverating on other people. So much time. Whether we're trying to come at it from the angle of fixing their problems, whether we're coming at it from the angle of being their friend, or we're coming at it from the angle of judging and criticizing them. We spend so much time perseverating on these issues. Why do we do that? Further, let me challenge you with this. If we can do that, why can't we find time to get into the Word of God and further ourselves? Why can't we find time to get into our secret place, pour out our praise and worship on him, and seek him? Why do we say we don't have time to do our devotions if we can spend so much time thinking about other people? That'll hit you square between the eyes. If it didn't right now, it will later. I promise. It did that to me. I want to say this. I just got this morning when I woke up. We know what the Bible says about persecution. How can we, as women, as people, how can we prepare ourselves for persecution from non-believers if we're so busy persecuting our fellow Christian sisters? When we tear people down, we are helping with persecution. If we built each other up, I promise you, this community, this state, this nation, this world would change if women would get their acts together. God gave us the ability to take our thoughts captive. His will doesn't align with including tearing anyone down, instead building them up. That means that when we do choose to tear someone down, we are also choosing to ignore his word and the power that he has given us to defeat our own minds when we choose to do that. As much as we all want to be able to admit that our thoughts are always godly, not one person can say that they've never thought about again, replayed again, and thought some more about something that should have been taken captive immediately. Your perception is very seldom someone else's reality. I say that often. I say that to my team at work. I say that pretty much anytime I'm speaking to anybody. Your perception is very seldom someone else's reality. Why don't the two align? Does anyone else see a problem with this? It's important that we remember to remain humble and to understand that our way of seeing things is not the only way to see things. Zach and I, when we got married, we had a couple of rules, non-negotiables. You know that whole, don't go to bed angry situation? We literally will stay up until 4 in the morning, going at it, because we're not about to go to bed, all right? I'm not going to let him, but we don't go to bed. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. We also had a rule: intentions never matter. We've lived by that for 6 years, and I was joking about the whole pro thing. I know kids throw a different spin into the whole marriage situation, but right now, I've been very blessed with a great husband. We say intentions don't always matter. Here's why. It doesn't matter what you intended to do. People don't really care about your intention. They don't. They care about what you did. They care about the result. They care about what you chose to do. It's time, maybe even in this body, that we take ownership of the times we have failed at encouraging each other and our call to God's ministry in our lives. All of us want to feel validated. But don't you think, with that validation, how many of you want to feel validated? You want to feel like what you're doing matters, okay? But when we're comparing to other women, we're putting all the control of validation into their hands, actually. And how many of you have ever told the woman that you're comparing yourself to that you're comparing yourself to her? No one. We got to stop. This is crazy. We need to seek validation from the Lord. Once that is fixed, the rest of the validation will just be extra. Because his approval for our lives is all that matters. That's it. That's all that matters. At the end of life, that is what you will be judged on. Not what somebody else thought of your hair or your nails. I bite my nails. Bad. Any nail biters? Power to you all. Okay? I really tried. My mom said, paint your nails, then you won't bite them. Okay. So I painted my nails. This is not helping. I don't even care. Okay, I don't even care. I play piano. It's like clicking the nail. That makes me crazy. So I'll just go with that. It doesn't matter what you wear. It doesn't matter the designer that you wear. One aspect of me that a lot of people don't know is I'm much, much different than I used to be. Let me explain this and why I'm so passionate about this. I used to be the mean girl. That was me. In fact, Zach and I met when we were 8 years old at Lake Placid. When we were at camp, we hated each other. I didn't like him. He was this kid. Anybody who's ever been to an event, Pastor David Delp, he's one of our mentors, and he called him Preacher Man because he would be this kid, the obnoxious kid, standing there before you get to the lake at the beach, standing there preaching at everybody. Like, just sit down. You know, I'm 8 years old and thinking this. Sit down. Who are you? Okay? Grew up, didn't like each other the whole time, 4 hours away, so we only saw each other at district events. Okay? When we turned about 18, we were helping at camp now. Now we were staff. He changed his mind. He started liking me. And I knew he liked me, and I milked that for all it was worth. Poor Zach. I did, because I had no interest in him at all. None. But it was nice. He'd do things for me, buy things, you know. This is not good. Young ladies, this is not acceptable behavior. I'm just telling you right now. This is not acceptable. It may be nice for a second, but it does get bad, because here's where it goes next. When we got a little bit older, we started dating when we were 20, 21. Okay, we were 21. While we were at camp, I would be with the group that made fun of Zach. We made fun of his weight. Zach has no coordination, and I'm not tearing him down. I'm telling the truth. He struggles with that. Zach was very sick as a kid and had to have medicine. His medicine actually got into his bones and bulked his bones. So if you don't, because it'll be weird, okay? But his wrist, his bone is about that big in his wrist. So he was slated to be a big guy regardless. We made fun of him. His lack of coordination, his weight. He had acne at the time. We made fun of him as much as we could. Why? Because we could. And because we thought it was funny. Anyone ever had to admit that to somebody? Try having to admit it to him. We were 21. I don't know what happened. I started liking him and I was annoyed. But prior to that, I was with this guy for 5 years, high school sweetheart. We knew we were going to get married, and he cheated on me when we were in college. Anybody who's ever gone through that, it's devastating, and I was only 20 years old. So I decided this is perfect. Zach lives 4 hours away. I can change my Facebook status to in a relationship, and I'll get him back. I'll get my ex-boyfriend back, because that's what I wanted, right? In my 20-year-old wisdom, that's what I wanted. So it started off, I started dating Zach to get my ex-boyfriend back. You all are like, why am I listening to her now? Okay, I'm going to fix it, I promise. So then I was praying, and I started to have eyes that were attracted to Zach. I started to have a heart that was becoming humble. I wasn't so full of myself anymore, and I didn't like that. I didn't like how that felt when I started realizing what was in my life, what I had done. And to this day, the most humbling experience I have ever had in my entire life, we had been dating 9 months, was to tell him, hey, because Zach was bullied his whole life. He was bullied. He had a kid at lunch who would buy him an extra tray every day, threw it in front of him and said, here you go, fatty. Zach also, I asked if I could share this, he also got into a little bit of rebellion, and he ended up breaking that kid's nose. Okay, we're glad he's saved now, and he hasn't broken anyone else's nose, but that I'm aware of. I don't want to know. I had to tell him, you know that group of people at camp that he had already shared, they really hurt me because I heard some of the things they said. I was part of that group. Anybody want to know what he did? He cried. That hurt. You want to know what I did? I cried worse. Because I didn't even recognize the damage that I had caused. I thought it was harmless because he didn't know. When you are gossiping about other women, you are damaging them. You are damaging them. When you post things on Facebook that doesn't mention their name, but if they read it, they'll know who it's about, you're damaging. That's not a pure heart. That's not what we're called to do. And the fact is, the more we do that, the less any of us will get done for his kingdom. We need to stop becoming so offended so quickly. People mess up. People aren't perfect. Coming from a pastor's kid standpoint, your pastors are wonderful. They're truly wonderful people. And I say this everywhere I go because this is important. You need to encourage them. What they're doing is hard. And I'm not saying that what you do is not hard. But being a pastor is hard because let's be real. You work a gazillion hours and you get paid for not a gazillion hours. You pour into people. There is no way that you do not become emotionally invested in every person that is in your body. I want you to think about a large body of people. There's never going to be somebody who does not have a problem. It's hard. Encourage your pastors. And let me tell you, if you are involved in tearing them down, stop it. It is not acceptable. As women or as Christians, it is not acceptable. These are good people called by God. I don't know anybody who wants to mess with God. I don't suggest it. Everyone will not be everyone's best friend. And my note is, deal with it. That's the fact. God didn't design us all to be best friends. If he did, why would he move us all over the place? Why would he send us all over the world? People in different places, if we're all designed to be people's best friends. Again, we all can identify somebody who annoys us. Can I please tell you that whoever that is in your life right now, if they're removed, things get fixed, somebody else is going to replace that. We're always going to have that. That's just how it is. It's just how it is. It's not going to be fixed. My father-in-law once told me that when someone offends you, you begin to see them through offended eyes. Then, whatever that person does becomes an offense to you. It doesn't matter what they do. It could have had nothing to do with you. I'll tell you, there's this one particular woman in my life, not so much now. She was really mean to me, and I wanted so bad for her to like me. Until I realized, and I still struggle with this, I'm telling you, how many of you would say you're the kind of person, I don't care what people say about me. It doesn't bother me. Okay? Power to you people. I wish I could be like that. I'm not. When I hear things about myself or my husband or my family, it hurts. And I want to fix it. And sometimes fixing it looks like giving up something that you want so you can give somebody something they don't want. Why do we fight so hard for that? Romans 12:18. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Notice it doesn't say resolve every issue on your own and everybody's going to be your best friend after that. No. The saying, the ball's in their court now. You have to live your life. You have to fix what you can control. If you wrong somebody, you go fix it. You're not in charge of whether or not they forgive you. That is not your job, nor should it be your worry. It's time that we take off the glasses of offense and start wearing the glasses of resolution, peace, and unity. We need to start encouraging and building each other up. I want to read several scriptures to you. 1 Peter 4:8-10. Above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins. Show hospitality to one another without grumbling, as each has received a gift. Use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. Proverbs 12:25. Anxiety in a man's heart weighs him down, but a good word makes him glad. Have you guys heard about the illustration where you blow up a balloon and each breath is supposed to represent an encouraging word? So in order to blow up the balloon, we did, in like a normal latex balloon, I think it was it 12 breaths? 12 breaths, so 12 encouragements, okay? You tie off that balloon. Then you bring a pin or a needle or something, and that's supposed to represent a discouraging word. Anybody want to know how many pokes on a regular latex balloon it takes to pop that whole thing? 1. 1 negative word to pop all of the encouragement that's been sown into us. And then we as women, because we are wired all weird, we perseverate on that one thing, forgetting about the 12 encouragements that God has sent to us. There's a big problem. Philippians 4:8, I'm sure we know this. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Philippians 2:3-4, do nothing from rivalry or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. Encouraging others and building them up is a crucial part of the gospel. People don't always remember everything about you. When I leave today, I doubt very much, except maybe now because I'm saying this, I doubt you're going to remember what I was wearing, what shoes I had on. I started wearing these weird like trouser socks things. Like they cut off the circulation at your knees. So like I don't know what's going on. You're not going to remember that except now that I told you. Okay? Yeah, it's just strange. That's what I'm going to have to do, move it. I have like super athletic looking calves, like I have really muscular calves. Not that you want to know that, but now everyone's looking at my legs. See? Okay. So I wear still problems, okay? People don't always remember what you looked like. They don't always remember even where you were. But I promise you, they will never, ever, ever forget a person who negatively impacted their life. They will never forget that. We are called to spread his good news to everyone through our words and our actions. You want to know the best part? God has given us the ability, the tools through his word, and the power of having a church body to come together and encourage. He's given us all of that to be able to accomplish the ability to share the gospel with people through our actions and words. Have you guys heard actions speak louder than words? How true is that? Especially in today's world, we look at politics. I don't follow politics. I just don't. I know enough when I'm needing to vote. I love the voter guide. Love that. I follow enough of it, but I don't get into the opinions and arguing. I don't get into any of that because ultimately, the real president of any place is Jesus. That's what I worry about. Here's my question to you. If we're called to spread his gospel through our actions and words, if we cannot do that with the women in our current circle, how on earth are we going to do that with any woman outside of our circle? How are we going to influence people for God's purpose and glory if we're in the church, in our circles, family even, and we can't lift each other up there? What kind of good do you think we're going to get done? God's given grace to every single person here today. Grace is not always easy, but it's required to live your life to the full. I find that the people who need the most grace are the people who never give grace. Zach and I talked to kids. We were children's and youth pastors before coming here, before evangelizing. And we tell the kids about what we call a grace bank. The Bible tells us that love keeps no record of wrong. But we as people create what I think is a grace bank. And this grace bank is, okay, it's so full. I'm going to pick the ice cream jug because that's like my favorite. Okay? If we have grace in here and we give it out to everybody, eventually when this gets empty, what do? Especially if you're the kind of person who gives grace and you never receive it. And let me tell you, there's a difference between not getting grace from people and not receiving grace from people. There's a huge difference. That's a different word for a different day. Someone told me one time, don't rob me of my blessing. Okay. Like, my goodness. We must remember that we all need grace, mercy, and encouragement. We're similar in our core desires. Let's stop robbing each other of encouragement. Let's stop allowing the enemy free access into our minds, our homes, our churches, and our relationships. Let's start changing the world around us by being examples of happy and healthy relationships and lives. Let's show people it's possible. People say being Jesus with skin on. It's kind of creepy. But people say that. It's possible to be a Christian and actually live a wholesome life. It's possible. Perfect? No. But it's possible. Let's stop spending so much time pointing out the bad and start spending more time finding ways to do and say good. We're in this together as women, as believers, as people, we're in this together. Earlier we mentioned that we have core values. We want to feel loved. We want to feel accepted. How many of you have ever felt unloved or unaccepted by another woman? This is a problem. This is a problem that we can fix. We have to do that. In closing, I'm going to do something very different. I've never done this, and I'll be really honest, I have no idea how it's going to go, but I'm going to trust the Lord. How many of you attend either the Batesville or Versailles campus of Church on the Rock? You actually attend. Okay. We love you guys very much, and I'm going to be real. When we came, Pastor Roger's word last night about relationships and tension, that's real. That exists. And I don't know what, and quite frankly, I don't care what was said, what was done. It needs fixed right now. You ladies who are here in some way are the core of these churches. We are meant to uplift our husbands so that they can be the real heads of our churches. But we don't do that sometimes, those who aren't married yet. We need to encourage our parents, those around us. We need to be encouraging. If we were striving to be encouraging people, our world would change. Because guess what? When you're blessing people, you are blessed. It will change how you see things. I don't see Zach in the way that I made fun of him anymore. Now if somebody says something about him, it about kills me. It hurts. It hurts. Because you love them. It's time that we get ourselves together. It's time we get our acts together.